Well, within the next hour, the Ukrainian Prime Minister, the new one, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, will be meeting the US President at the White House. He has already had a chat with the US Secretary of State, John Kerry, who says he will travel to London on Friday for talks with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergey Lavrov. Well, this is all ahead of the Crimean referendum taking place on Sunday about whether it should become part of Russia or remain part of Ukraine. Alan Fisher joining us now live from Washington, D.C. Is Yatsenyuk looking for anything other than moral support, anything concrete?
Well, this is going to be a public display of affection from the US administration towards the acting Prime Minister in the Ukraine, and that will go a long way to shoring up his support in many people's eyes. Because, of course, there are world leaders who don't get this sort of opportunity. So to sit down with the President, the Vice President and the Secretary of State, that will be important morally. But, of course, he's looking for a lot more besides. The Americans have already said that they're ready to pump $1 billion through the IMF into the Ukrainian economy. That would be useful. Remember, Yatsenyuk is an economist. He is also a lawyer. He's the man who was really credited with saving the Ukrainian banking system during the Orange Revolution in 2004 by limiting the amount of withdrawals that people could make. So he understands the economy of all of this. He understands what's going on, and he understands how important American support is. That is why he'll be in the White House. That is a message he'll be hammering here to the President, the Vice President and the Secretary of State.
And those in Washington, D.C., the President, the Secretary of State have reiterated their position that this forthcoming Crimean referendum on independence is entirely illegal. Do they think there's anything more they can do than voice their displeasure?
Well, there is the briefing which is going on in the building behind me there, and just in the last 10 minutes, Jay Carney, the White House spokesman, was asked about the whole idea of this Ukrainian referendum, particularly in the Crimea, and he said, look, his understanding of Ukrainian law, and I'm sure it's not as detailed as many people's, was that if you're having a referendum of this kind, it has to be all Ukraine-wide. Therefore, in the view of the White House and in many in the international community, this would be illegal. He was responding to a question that was, is there the possibility that they could hold this referendum on Sunday and then the Russians wouldn't recognise the result, which would be significant and important as well? So could they possibly do that? Jay Carney's really leaving that up to the Russians. But perhaps that's something that John Kerry can talk about when he sits down with Sergey Lavrov in Russia, in London on Friday.